Puerto Rican kid, bald head, loves snakes, loves Blizzy, Sergio Chacon.
Yeah. What up, Pa?
Peace. Welcome to the DBS podcast. It's your boy Sergio Chacon, aka Blizzy Chacon. That shit whack.
I mean, it's always gonna be Dirtbag Shit podcast. The DBS podcast.
Peace and welcome to the DBS podcast. It's your boy, Sergio Juan Chacon. Yes, I bet you didn't know my middle name was Juan. Surprise, surprise. Without further ado, please welcome my guest, pro boxer, the very, very talented middleweight, former WBA champion, Miss Alicia Napoleon-Espinosa.
I always found your story very interesting. Before boxing, what was it? What was your main sport? Was it wrestling?
No, but I did wrestle in high school. My first love, the first sport that I ever started playing and I fell in love with was baseball.
Baseball. And
yeah.
It's so funny. I didn't realize you were born in 86. Like, you're mad young, right? And I'm like, 86, that's when the Mets won the World Series. Like, that's the last time the Mets, I was like, God damn, I remember that. And so to think that you were born in that year is hilarious to me, because I was like 6 years old, and you're like, oh my what's going on? Your parents.
Mets too. I'm a Met fan.
I know, and you never seen them win the World Series. Oh, did they win? They haven't won since 86.
Gosh, that's a shame. And 86 was the last time Nassau Coliseum held boxing.
Oh,
and
wow.
Tyson was the last one to fight there. And now it's the NYCB Coliseum. They changed it, the Long Island Coliseum.
Okay.
And then I was the first woman to fight there. So that's pretty cool too.
That's historic. That's dope.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I forgot about that, but I do totally remember it now that you brought it up. Curry wants to say hello.
Yeah, I should get ravioli. Ravioli!
It'll be a share your animal affair.
Yeah, there we go. Ravioli's always jumping in on podcasts.
Oh my God, look at Ravioli. And then he brought out his fangs. He went.
I know, because I was squeezing him. Come on, Rav.
He's adorable. That's hilarious.
Oh, he's a funny dog.
So that's interesting to me, right? You start playing baseball, which is the polar opposite of boxing. It's slow, it's a team sport, and it's like there's really no action. I mean, you know, it does require a lot of talent and focus, but it's a totally different thing. So as a kid, you were playing baseball for how long?
Oh, up until my senior year of high school, I played.
Really?
But when I started at 5 years old. I was the only girl on the team, and I was really good. I was the only one that would hit home runs. I was the only one that would slide into home plate. I was really, competitive and aggressive, and I was the only girl, and the boys called me Big Al. And that's with me also throughout high school.
You look like you weren't very fond of it. You looked over to the left, like, yeah, they call me Big Al.
Yeah. But being introduced to sports so young, I loved it because I'm just competitive. So I was like, I want to be a baseball player when I grow up. And my poppy was the one that really got me into the sport. He loved baseball. He loved the Mets. And he was the one that told me I couldn't because I was a girl. So that's where that real fight for equality began. Like when I was 5 years old, I've always from that age on, I always fought for, girls being treated the same, or sticking up for girls that were getting bullied by boys in school, and, playing sports. That's how I ended up on the wrestling team, because they didn't want girls on the wrestling team. And I tried to fight my way onto the football team, but I lost that battle. But, and I think that's just one of the reasons why I love boxing, because women are such underdogs in it, and there needs to be a lot of change. And it really taps into that mental and physical fight and challenge.
Yeah, well, you're a great ambassador of the sport. You know, me and you are friends, so I might be a bias, but I'm not, because even though we're close friends, I've always thought of you as a great ambassador for the sport. You represent it well, and you're one of my favorite. You're one of my favorite fighters.
Oh, I love you,
You're
sir.
an action fighter. You not only are you slick, but you use both hands. You're I guess a boxer puncher is a good way of describing you.
I would say, yeah, that's a good way to describe my style.
You use both hands, use your, slickness, but you go to the head, you go to the body, and it's a nice combination of different things, which I've always appreciated about you.
Thank you.
So you started boxing, so that's what inspired it, right? You were kind of getting turned down to like what the future held as a career in sports, and boxing. You went to the gym, and then you found like this new love for the sport.
Yeah, I mean, being an athlete, I also was an artist too growing up. So I loved, painting and drawing and poetry and dancing and singing. And I really gravitated towards singing, when I was like, actually the same age, around 5 years old. I was singing in church choirs and stuff like that.
Let me interrupt you for 1 second. Annoying, you're like multi-talented. You got like 20 different talents. People are searching for one. They're like 65 years old, and meanwhile, you harbor like 65 of them.
I harbored a lot. God was good, but I had to make a choice at a point in my life where I needed to channel and focus, because I was doing so many things. I was painting, I was recording in the studio and singing. I was training, and I made a decision when I was around between 18 and 20. I made a decision to focus on boxing. And slowly I stepped away from the studio, and I stepped away from painting for a while. And I really focused in on boxing. And then I started to win as an amateur. I started winning the gloves. I started winning on other tournaments and competitions and club shows. And then at 27, I said, I want to turn pro. I want to take it further. I want to see where I can go. And it's really just climbing that mountain one step at a time. Like, I never anticipated to be a world champion, but little by little, by just being consistent and working towards little goals every day, every week, every month, every year, I finally reached a couple of really great climaxes in my life where I've accomplished things, and like one just led to the next. Like, being able to step in the ring and fight a smoker fight was one accomplishment. Then to really fight and have my book and fight for real and have it count. And then to fight in the Golden Gloves and actually win. And, then to continue, then to take the step to go turn pro. And I was terrified throughout all of this.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to be able to conquer that fear and control my fear rather than let fear control me. And I wanted to learn how to channel my fear to really be great and to overcome it. Because if I could do that in the ring, I could do that in anything in life.
Absolutely, man. I think it's a great analogy for life. I mean, you just happen to be a pro fighter, but anyone who practices, who's involved in martial art, I think they learn that all the discipline, all the milestones that you accomplish within that martial art could be applied to everyday life.
Yeah, definitely. And
but what was the spark that allowed boxing to be the main focal point when you were so good at other different things? What was it about boxing that really grabbed you? Was it the fact that you felt like you had more control of it because you're literally lacing the gloves, putting on your boots and fighting? Or was it more like you just felt like it was more something that suited you at that given time? Because that's hard.
It's hard to say. I think there's a lot of different factors that kind of play into what led me into this sport. Looking back and reflecting on my career, what I've noticed now is, I think one of the reasons why I fight is because I'm fighting myself. Like, I fight myself every time. I fight myself in training camp. I fight myself when I step in the ring and it's the actual fight and the bell rings and I'm facing the woman across from me. But I'm really facing myself. It puts me in a vulnerable position to overcome all my own insecurities, questions about myself, doubts about myself, testing who I really am and what I can really do and handle. And that doesn't mean that I'm not nothing if I lose, because it's even being able to lose humbly and graciously, which is also a fight in itself. So it's a true testing of character when you step into that ring. And I think subconsciously for many years, I fought to fight my own personal battles of who I was or who I thought I was or who society perceived me as or family perceived me as. It wasn't always, and I think this goes for everybody. I think everybody has stories in their life that is not always pretty. People, even the closest ones to you, family members, aren't always very nice to you or motivating or uplifting and encouraging. And I had both, but I had a lot of ugly moments where loved ones closest to me told me I would never be anything, told me I was never good enough, told me I was never smart enough, pretty enough, strong enough. And as a kid, I was treated that way from friends and family and peers. And there was just something in me that always said no. But then there was a lot of doubt in me that said, well, maybe they're right. Maybe they're true. But there was just a tiny seed of faith inside of me that said, I have to fight this. Wow. I have to go and prove it to myself. It's not about proving to anybody else, even though during the path and the journey and the process of starting this sport, but even from everything in the very beginning, like going back to being 5 years old and being told I couldn't do certain things because I was a girl. My entire life, it was constantly fighting and proving my worthiness as a woman in the world. And I think that's one of the deepest reasons why I fight today. It's not to win against the other woman, but to win against myself when I'm in that ring.
Wow. Wow, that was beautifully said. I mean, that is powerful stuff.
Thanks, Serge.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I respect that. Because then it kind of showcases like the beauty, the poetry and something so violent too, right? Like the beautiful brutality, right? I mean, it's more than just punching somebody in the face. It's something that you're fighting within, and it's inspired from somewhere. And boxing itself is a beautiful sport. It's like, but I think a lot of people perceive it as something else when there's so much more to it. It really is. And I'll go back to that point earlier. And I'm not the first one to say this. It really is like a great analogy for life, because you're constantly fighting. You're leaving yourself vulnerable, and there's no hiding who you really are. And
that's exactly.
I think it will be revealed inevitably.
Yeah, that's what I love about this sport, because when I was singing,
honest sport.
Yeah, total honest, total raw sport. Like, you can't hide behind nothing in that ring. You are completely exposed. There's no hiding behind any lies or any just nothing. You can't hide behind nothing. You are who you are in that ring in that moment. And I love it for that.
Even the worst moments in the ring don't necessarily define you, but you have to own it, right? What it is at that certain time. For example, when you say that, it kind of brings up the moment when Andy Ruiz, it's Andy Ruiz, right?
Andy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When he beat Anthony Joshua, the first fight, there was something about Joshua's body language that suggested he no longer wants to be there.
Yeah.
He dropped Ruiz, but when he got knocked, how many times it was I forget how many times he got knocked down. But there was something in his eyes that showed, that revealed he could probably continue, but emotionally he didn't really, like physically he could continue, but emotionally he didn't really want to deal with it anymore. And I remember like him looking to the side, the way he rested his arms on the rope, and like it suggested, I don't really want to do this anymore. And the referee took that as a sign that you're quitting, like, you know, or you can't do this anymore. When in reality, he probably could have mustered it up. But and not to say that he's not a great champion, it doesn't define him, but the sport does reveal that.
No, 100%. And yeah, physically he probably could have overcame and conquered and won that fight, but mentally he couldn't. And it's really hard for professionals at really any level to be mentally strong, because there's even been times in my pro career that I was very mentally fatigued. And I won. I remember this one fight in particular that I was just so mentally drained from the attention, from
do you remember what fight it was?
Yeah, it was against oh God, what was her name? Letitia Burton. Is one of my fights against Letitia Burton. I think it was the last fight I fought her. I fought her like 3 times. And
this is in the amateurs.
No, this is the pros.
You fought somebody 3 times over?
Yeah, I think I fought her 3 times. Yeah, because I had a couple of fallouts, and she was like last minute replacement once or twice.
Really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and also to fight somebody again, like I knew I could beat her, and it was just a lot, like just a lot going on. I was just very lethargic. I didn't perform my best. I beat her, but I didn't perform my best. And it took so much for me mentally to like turn myself back on in the later rounds and finish.
What the reason for that was? Because you've been there before in the ring with her, so you were kind of checked out? Was it, what do you think, what was the reason for that?
Well, I think the biggest reason for her is because I've been there before with her, and I get bored. I get bored in the ring. Like if I like to fight somebody that's challenging, because I need them to keep me on my toes. And if they can keep me on my toes, then I can stay sharp. When I know that I can beat them, sometimes I get lazy and bored, and I make mistakes once in a while. Or I don't look as good as I could or as sharp as I could. Like iron sharpens iron. So that's why you see a lot of these fights. Like, you know, when like a top level athlete is fighting somebody at equal caliber, compared to a high-end athlete fighting a tomato can. Right. You know, that's why a lot of people are complaining about boxing, because they're saying it's boring and it's rigged. And that's because there's a lot of fights that don't, you know, they don't put on the performance that they could if they were at equal competition. For the women are equal competition 90% of the time.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. Eventually, you do see those fights with men, but it's like 6 fights almost too late.
Yeah, totally.
It's so built up.
Definitely.
And I've always enjoyed watching women box, because they're passionate, and I always feel like they're offensive minded and really present. I always feel like that about female fighters. You know, I don't necessarily, and maybe it's because there's more men boxing, but I don't always feel that with men. Women are special in that aspect in boxing. I always felt that they should get the recognition, because you guys train just as hard. I always thought too that it should be 3-minute rounds. How do you feel about that? They give you guys 2-minute rounds.
Well, I think one of the reasons why a lot of people find women's boxing more exciting than men is because we fight 2 minutes, and we have to put the work in.
I didn't even think about that. That makes total sense.
A lot of guys, when they fight the 3-minute rounds, they could buy a lot of time in that round. They could really, you know, dance around the ring or avoid their opponent for a minute or even a minute and a half and fight the last end of the round, which you see a lot of. The fact that women fight shorter rounds, time and round-wise, we have to get the work in. We have to put it in. So, you know, I think that's why you see a lot more output when it comes to women during their fights. Right. I would say, not everybody would agree, but like, it wouldn't be such a bad idea to have everybody fight 2-minute rounds. And you'd see probably a lot more competition done within a man's round if they were to have less time to finish the job.
Yeah, or depending on the type of fight it is, between the two fighters, maybe it could be modified or something, just to tweak it a little bit. I don't know. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against women fighting 3-minute rounds, but I just, you know, they have to pay us equally. They have to pay us fairly if they're expecting us to do what the men do. I mean, I think one of the reasons why women don't fight 3-minute rounds is because there's been studies done about women being more vulnerable to head injury. We're definitely more vulnerable to getting, concussions or any sort of head injuries. So I think that's one of the reasons why boxing doesn't have us fight 3-minute rounds. And I also
as far as like injuries, like the breast area, is that like a sensitive area? I've always thought about that, but I never knew. Or do you wear a guard there upstairs?
No, we can wear guards or not wear guards.
So by choice, it's not mandatory, right?
So it depends where we're fighting. It depends what state we're fighting.
I would imagine that could be like a very sensitive area, for punches.
Yeah, it could, because every woman's different. And like if it's around like, our menstrual time, it's definitely more sensitive.
That's wild that, there's no, you sign up for a fight and it's that time of the month. That could really change.
Oh, it changes a lot. You can gain up to 5 pounds or more, and it won't come off because it's water weight and it stays there. You're extremely fatigued.
Is there any allowance with something like that with the commission? You just got to make the weight. So if you're retaining water because it's that time of the month, they don't care.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Wow,
so
that's tough.
And
is there anything that someone could take to like alleviate the?
No, because I think like taking diuretics and stuff is illegal because they think you're trying to push out other supplements like steroids or whatever, or some sort of performance drug. So even taking a diuretic to lose weight is illegal. So you can't even do that, which is, a lot of women like to do that because they can tend to get very bloated and it's very uncomfortable and it slows you down.
Right.
So it's a lot of interesting factors of being a man and a woman. And, going back to like those 3 minutes and 2-minute rounds, I really like, I hate when I hear people say, oh, you don't see knockouts in women, but you really do though. You do. Like, on DAZN, you saw Superbad fight her opponent. She knocked her out like the first round. Amazing. A beautiful knockout. Like she's not the only one. Also, women, we have to fight women that are at equal talent. We don't really have a chance to pick and choose who we get to fight like the guys do too. So that's another reason why you think you might not see as many knockouts is because we're going toe to toe with somebody that could hang and that could stay in there with us. So you're not going to get knocked out all the time. But they do exist. Also, you're not seeing as many women's fights as you could. So if there was more variety, you would see a bigger variety of knockouts and everything happening if there was more of women's fights being broadcasted and on those platforms where people could visually see what we could do. So, there's a lot of haters out there that just say, oh, women should fight 3 minutes, not knowing the science behind it and the injuries. Oh, women don't knock people out, but not realizing that we're fighting the best of the best and that there really are knockouts, but you're just not seeing as many women as you should be. So your percentage of knockouts are going to be as a higher percentage of men.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. Yeah.
There's just a lot of factors in there, and it's annoying, but it's a work.
Listen, I mean, even in certain weight classes of men, you don't see a lot of knockouts. If you go to like the straw weights and flyweights, it's just a good scrap. It's just like two roosters kind of going at it. It's like you don't see knockouts of those very lightweights, and that's still very entertaining.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what people like to see. They really like. I mean, of course, everybody wants to see a knockout, but if you can't see a knockout, you could see like just a blood-hungry fight that goes to the very end. I mean, that's just as entertaining. At least it's not like, two guys dancing around playing patty cake, know?
Right. Who was the inspiration as a fighter? Like, who were you looking up to when you?
Oh, well, when I first started, I remember seeing Ann Wolf on TV knock out that big Russian. I think she was Russian. Was she a Russian girl?
I think she might have been from the States. I felt like she had.
You know what? I think she had American
shorts like Apollo Creed shorts.
Yeah, she had American shorts on, but
I remember that.
And I mean, I remember seeing Ann Wolf just knock her down with one punch, and it was awesome. I loved her. And so she's
Have
been
you
a
ever
really...
met Ann Wolf?
No, I haven't gotten to yet, but I'm sure I will eventually in this boxing world. But I love her.
She's bad, man.
She's awesome.
That was an overhand, right?
Yeah, man. She was really, really awesome. Really something.
Who else?
I love
Who else did you like? Any male boxers that,
Yeah.
that maybe shared the same heritage that you, Italiano, like Arturo Gatti or something like that?
I did. Love Gotti, love Duran, love Tyson, you know, love Marciano. You know, love Marciano. There's a lot of old time fighters like I forgot Nicolino's last name. I think he was Argentinian. But yeah, a lot of those guys. I gotta say though, my favorites were probably Gotti, Duran, Tyson, and Marciano. Yeah, love those guys. And
I had Gotti
Riker and Christine Martin. I loved her. Layla Ali, I love her too because she's a woman. I support women. I just wish I would have seen
more, right?
I wish I would see her do more now, and for women in boxing, be more involved, speak out more, and you know, try to really make equality happen for us. You know,
I mean,
but
I think it is fair to say that it's gotten considerably better since the 90s.
Yeah.
You know, it's gotten better. I mean, you guys are, headlining fights. I mean, you know, I think it's definitely moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Maybe not as fast as we want, but definitely moving in the right direction. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's going to take time still to get a lot of that resistance to ease up. And because I put a couple of tweets out there when DAZN had not Lucia Riker, Brackhouse and McCatskill, and I like Sergio Mora. I think he's a great commentator. But one thing I know is
there's a lot of people I like. I think he's okay.
Yeah, he's okay.
I think when we think about like great, and you didn't say great, but I'm just saying when I think of like a real good, I think Malignaggi is really good.
Yeah, and I'm so sad that he's not with Showtime anymore.
I know, and it's just like that's bullshit. You know, like you want to talk about dirtbag shit. It's like I understand his politics, but every time he's commentating, his politics are never thrown into the equation. So why should outside shenanigans interfere with his job? And it's the present day, it's present day politics that allowed him to lose his job. And I don't even know what he said exactly. I think one, and you correct me if I'm wrong, one statement that he made in response to Devin Haney?
Mm-hmm.
Am I getting his name correct? Devin Haney.
Haney.
Devin Haney. Devin Haney made a remark about no white fighter could beat me. No white fighter could beat me. And Malignaggi responded, maybe that would be correct in the 80s when black, African Americans or whatever black fighters were dominant in the sport. But in present day, a lot of Eastern Europeans are dominant in the sport. Lomachenko, etc. And last I heard, those were white guys. So that was one. And I was like, that's pretty fucking accurate. And I think that's a very challenging, good rebuttal. But then I think he said something else on a tweet along the lines, and you can't quote me on this. I don't want to quote. I heard, because I didn't see it, something along the lines where there's no real oppression with black people. Everyone's treated equally or whatever. And, that's controversial in itself. But I don't think it warrants him losing his job, if that's what it was. But anyway, that's a whole other, a whole other thing. But that's wild if, because as a commentator, he does his job and he does it very well.
Yeah, he's awesome.
But that's just the present day we live at. A lot of, on both sides, people get in trouble. I mean, people are extra, you know.
Oh, yeah. Super sensitive. You got to be very careful what you say.
You got to be very careful. There's times in this
People
damn
take things out
podcast.
of context. It's really, it's, you know, and it's sad. It's sad. Like, you know, I just hope that we can come to a place where we can all get along and just everybody be equal, no matter what color and what gender. You know, it just shouldn't matter at the end of the day. We all bleed red.
Yeah. But I wanted to, because I went off on a rant about Malignaggi being a great commentator. What were you saying pertaining to that? You say you're watching the fight and Sergio was a good commentator.
Every time I see a female fight on the zone and Sergio's commentating, he goes real hard on girls needing to fight 3-minute rounds. And girls don't have knockouts because they don't fight 3-minute rounds. Oh. And girls should fight 3-minute rounds, 3-minute rounds, 3 minutes. That's all I hear him say. But I don't hear him say that girls should be paid the same to fight 3-minute rounds. And I think he's got his facts wrong that there are knockouts and that he's got to realize that girls are fighting equal competition and they're fighting tough fights, you know, so I think it's just a little ignorant on his end, and it annoys me because he goes hard. Like, he's always like, it's like that's the only thing he's got in his back pocket to talk about when he sees a female fight is the 3-minute round thing. I just wish he would just put it to rest and, you know, get a little educated on what women really can do and who we really are. And not just because he's hearing the garbage out in the street saying, oh, yeah, women fighting 3-minute rounds.
And when someone repeatedly says something like that, it's almost like he has other reservations, but he's just not saying it outwardly.
Yeah, like
it's almost like he's shitting on women boxers, but it's like, this is what I got in the back pocket. That's what I'm gonna use or for. But he's not outright saying what he really feels about it. It's just like,
yeah, that's my whole point, and it's just annoying. It's just really annoying to me.
Yeah.
And it's not helping us. I don't think it's helping us. I think he's not on our side, you know. It's just the feeling I get when I hear him speak.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I could be sensitive to it.
Anybody of a name would you say who's a real advocate and that you're proud of? Like any brothers, the boxing, like any people you know that are like really pushing for women's like equality.
Like Lou DiBella, my promoter, huge.
Fighters, you know.
Fighters, I think like, you know, I mean, the guys, the pros that are in the gym with us, the pros that are, you know, that are there working their way up the ranks, that see us struggle and fight and know what we put in, they totally are with us. I'm trying to think of like offhand, like names, like any big names. None that I could think of. It would be nice to see some of those guys maybe start to shout us out a little bit more, maybe speak up for us a little bit more, maybe mention it, you know, in their interviews or on their social media feed, or if there's a female fight going on, like, you know, speak up about it like I did when I keep seeing Sergio Mora comment about the 3-minute round thing. And when I tweeted that out, I got a lot of hate from a lot of men, a lot of ignorant.
And it was
men.
probably like borderline abusive. Some of the like nasty, right?
Yeah, very ignorant. And it's sad. It's sad to me to see that these boxing fans that are men discredit me and just think I'm wrong. Being a woman in the sport and what I've accomplished, just it saddens me, because to me that's not a boxing fan. If you're a boxing fan, you want every athlete to be treated equal, no matter what gender you are. If I'm a male or female, we should be treated equal. We should be viewed equal. It's not different. And it saddens me. I think the younger generation will view us differently. Will view us equal.
I think so too. I think that's an old, like, pig-headed, stubborn mentality. You know, I think it's, you know, I also think that there's an evolution and revolution happening with that sort of thing. Inevitably, I think that is going in that direction.
And I say that because it takes just one. And when I fought on Showtime in January.
Great fight, by the way. Very proud of you. That was a great fight.
I know, that was awesome.
Entertaining.
I'm not even upset that I lost by 1 point.
No,
it was just
shouldn't be. I mean, it was a great account of who you are. We want to talk about who you are, even in defeat. I mean, it was just a great representation of who you are. I mean, after the knockdown, you came back strong, and I mean, you were like a dog in there, and you were bloody, and it was exciting. It was dramatic. It was like you had people on their toes. I mean, that deserved a standing O. That was a great scrap, and I want to see it again.
I know that was.
I know you could beat her. And this goes beyond being a friend. I just know as a fight fan that you could beat her. You know.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I want
definitely beat her next time.
I want the rematch with Elin. I know I could beat her. If it wasn't for that damn knockdown, it would have been my fight that night. But she edged me with the knockdown. But man, that was an awesome fight, and we gained a lot of respect from people that night. How they view women's boxing, and you know, that was like by far the best fight on that card that night. At male or female, it was the best fight. I
was commentating, but they said the same thing, I believe.
Yeah, it was an amazing.
A lot of props.
Amazing fight. It was awesome. I loved it. But that being said, with that fight, my point is with the next generation really accepting women in the sport, there's a little boy that goes to Gleason's, and he's going to be probably like 7 years old. And his mom put a video of him on Facebook and tagged me on it, or Instagram, tagged me on it. And it was him waiting for the score, waiting for the final decision of who is the champion. And he's watching, he's in front of the TV, and they raise Elan's hand and not mine. And he goes down and he's screaming and he's crying, no. To see the passion from a little boy viewing two women competing in a world title championship, he viewed us as athletes, not as women. And that tells me he's got good people around him, because if he had a chauvinistic jerk in saying, oh, those are women, you don't need to waste your time with that, he wouldn't even acted the way he did. He was so passionate. And I believe that there's more young men like that in that generation that are going to come up, that are going to view women equally in sports. And I hope to see young girls grow up. And I believe I see a wave of young women starting to, endeavor in sports that might have been labeled as masculine and still be feminine and still be the young women they are, but conquer and achieve great things in sports and accept it and not feel like, well, I have to be a boy, or they're going to think I'm a boy, or I'm going to become manly. And like, no, you're still a young lady, and you're just dominating this sport in the best way possible. And so I think the next generation is going to be more accepting and very interesting. And
I agree. I think it's headed in a good direction.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure. Would you ever consider, with your wrestling background, this athletic background beyond boxing, would you ever consider MMA?
I did, but to be honest, it's learning all over again.
Yeah.
And I have invested years, like 16 years into boxing, and I'm still investing time because I want to fight for at least another 5 more years in this sport. So 20 plus years I put into this sport. If I was to go do MMA, sure, I'd be successful, I'm sure, but I would be starting from square one. Even though I have karate in my background, I have wrestling in my background, I'm great as a fighter, as a boxer, and I have all those, but I haven't been wrestling and doing karate and kicking since I was a teenager, since I was a kid. So I really would be starting from square one. I don't think I thought about it, but I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to stick with boxing, but I do like the sport. I do like MMA, so you will see me in that world possibly in the future, but probably commentating, but not competing.
Yeah, and I think you do a very good job on that end too. I want to see more of that. I would like to see you on that scene as well.
You probably will. I'm gonna
That's
start
dope.
working my way
I
into
think
that
well
world.
deserved. And did you
And I
watch?
love the women in it. I love the women in there. They're oh God, I love watching the women in that sport. They're tenacious. They're just ruthless. They're really awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I gotta say, my experience of being in boxing gyms and and working, you know, sparring or just like working with MMA guys. I like those. I like the culture of MMA. Or like, or maybe, and I could be wrong. Maybe it's not MMA. Maybe it's jujitsu or whatever. Because I know MMA obviously is mixed martial arts, right? But I feel like those guys, discipline, they carry this air of humbleness that's very refreshing. You
Yeah.
know? Like every time I've like worked with like a guy who is into mixed martial arts, and I'm not sure if it's one discipline that instills that in them, or maybe it's just collectively what they're doing. But they always, first of all, they always come in shape. Those guys are always in shape.
Oh, definitely.
MMA guys are like machines, man.
Definitely.
They're like they're working on that.
No joke.
Yeah, and like, and you know, we're both, you know, boxers are not always in shape. Like sometimes they still got the skill, but like, oh, this motherfucker's out of shape. I've never seen an MMA guy out of shape. Like they're always like.
That's so true. That's so funny.
Right? Like
yeah, you see some fat fighters walk into that ring.
What was that?
You see some fat meatball fighters walk into that ring, and you see some of those fat fighters do some damage and win.
Oh yeah,
but,
for sure.
Boxing is so unpredictable when it comes to that. Like you can never judge a book by its cover in
yeah,
boxing.
you can get someone who's ripped who's out of shape. Like they just don't have. You know, it's so weird. It's so weird.
It really is.
You know who was one of my favorite fighters, and supposedly he was out of shape a lot. Was James Toney.
Remember James Toney?
James Toney was a middleweight who fought like Roy Jones. Anyway, he did the shoulder roll a lot. He mixed it up. I'm going to send you select. You definitely know who he is. The name is not clicking.
Gotta see him. It's not clicking.
But it was fun to watch. But he was always like, after the fight, Burger King, Burger King. Like he relished the fact that he was just like such a fat boy inside. He was like, we're going to go to Burger King.
Most fighters, I think, are fat kids inside.
So how hard is it? How hard is it to cut weight? I mean, listen, you come from you're Italian, you know, we know how Italians get down, like Latinos, like Puerto Ricans. We're festive, right? We like our food. Puerto Ricans, we like our penne. We like, you know, our rice and beans, you know, everything in abundance, eat it with the family. Italians, not far from that. If anything, it's more grand. How do you do it when you're cutting weight for a fight? Have you ever fought during like the holidays? Or close to the holidays, you had to like miss out on Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that shit?
Oh, that was horrible.
I don't fight in January. Like, nah, I'm not doing any January, February fights.
I actually, for the Eland fight, I skipped Christmas. I didn't even celebrate. It was horrible. It was really horrible.
Heartbreaking.
It was. It was very depressing. And but he had to sacrifice it. It just sucks. It's very hard. You have to be very mentally ready to stick to your diet, to know what.
And it's you're not going away to camp to like you didn't go away to train for that. You were still at home.
Yeah.
So people are looking at you like this, like eating cannolis and shit. Like, this is good.
Yeah.
Like,
it's hard. I mean, there's been times where I have to open the bottle of Nutella just to smell it. Just so I can get some satisfaction from the smell and not eat it.
That Zab Judah used to bite burgers
and spit it out.
I've
done it before. I've done that before.
I couldn't do that. I would need to swallow it.
Yeah, it's hard.
He said that got him through a lot of fights.
Yeah, you bite it, you spit it out, you smell it, you walk away. It's really, 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 really hard.
The most difficult thing about it
That's
all?
the most difficult thing, the food. The food is very hard because I could train all day. I like to train. Training's hard too, though. But
I think something that needs to be shared that a lot of people that don't fight know, and we seen our boy Pistol Pete go through this. Is you train so freaking hard, you know, and then your fight gets canceled.
Oh yeah.
That's heartbreaking, man. And it's no fault to you, it's no fault to Pete, but like that shit has gotta be heartbreaking.
No, it is. It's a roller coaster. You go up and down, up and down. Your emotions are high and low. Like I was fighting in BB King one night and best shape, really ready for the fight, excited to take it. And my opponent, she weighed in. She was good at weigh-ins. Next day, we walk into the fight. We have to do another physical before the fight. She's not passing her physicals. Her heart rate is way too high. They come in, oh, you're not fighting. Her heart rate's too high. They come back in, oh, you know what? We changed your mind. You could fight. She's okay. They come back in, oh, you can't fight, but, you know, we might not be able to fight, but we're going to see what we could do. At that time, I couldn't fight after that. Forget about it. Like, you can't tell me.
Yeah, that really can mess with your spirit.
Yeah, big time, because you worked yourself up throughout camp.
That happens, and this is at a different level. I can only imagine at that level. Like, you're a pro fighter, you know, you got people there, you're dressed up. You know, that happened to me doing an amateur fight. Like, you know, like, yes, no, yes. And I'm just like, yeah, it's jarring, you know, like, oh, wrap up. You know, don't wrap up. Cut the wraps. Like, what?
Yeah, it's really messes with your mind big time. Like if you were to go back in the ring after all of that, you most likely won't perform your best.
Yeah.
It's really mentally draining. It sucks the life out of you. So when a fighter is training and the fight's pulled out from underneath them, you need a break after that. You know, you need a little bit of a break and you could go back into a fight after that. But like you got to work your way up mentally and prepare your mind, because you're preparing your mind at the same time you're preparing your body. And it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's 100% mental as it is physical.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. Do you, like after, if you get that rematch, who else do you have in mind? Do you have like fights?
I want to go back down to 60 and 54, because I really, to be honest, I do not like fighting 68. I'm really not comfortable there. It feels too heavy for me. I feel heavy at that weight. I don't feel like I can move.
What's your last fight at that weight?
My last fight was at that weight.
At 68.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did great, but I know me. I know I fight the strongest. I fight the best at 54 and 60. But 54, I feel the best. When I get all that weight off, I feel strong and light. I'm a strong 54-pounder.
Yeah.
And I'm, you know,
yeah, you feel fluid and you feel like a machine. It's like a
I feel like a machine because I do the work to get there. Like I can eat. I could eat a lot more garbage to fight at 68. I gotta eat clean like a machine at 54 to make sure I maintain 54. Right. So everything in my body is good. Like I cannot be strict. I still have to diet to maintain 68, but I could have a pizza. I could have a cheeseburger. I could have pasta. Not every single day, but I could have it throughout the week if I wanted, and then cut back and then, you know, maintain it. And it's what you put in your body is important too. You know, that really deciphers your performance.
Yeah, even if you're doing it once a week, once every 2 weeks, I just think that you're not as fluid. The connection to your mind, to your body reaction is not the same. I've heard time and time again from pro fighters, and I feel like vegans, or maybe not so many vegans, but vegetarians are actually making more of an impression in fight sports. They're saying they feel one with the earth, and like the reaction to this coordination and this sharpness is at a different level. Timothy Bradley said that he used to be he was a vegetarian during his fight years, and that's extreme on that end. But it makes sense. Like if you're putting a bunch of good stuff in your body, like you're just hyper aware and sharp, you know? I mean, it makes sense.
I mean, that's great. If that works for them, that's great. I'm a meat eater. I love meat. But I do agree with the fact that there's a lot of nutrients and a lot of protein that you can get from vegetables and fruits. And there's a lot of energy that comes from vegetables and fruits. So it's really important to have that in your diet. And the protein is great to, you know, to maintain and gain your muscle. So if you want to continue with your muscle mass, you have to eat those proteins. You have to eat steak. You got to eat chicken. You know, the lighter the protein, the leaner you'll become with fish and chicken and eggs, stuff like that. But I agree with that. I could never go vegan because I love meat. I'm not a crazy meat eater, but you know, I like a steak once in a while.
Yeah, me too.
I love chicken. I love meatballs.
I mean, I feel bad for the piggies and cows, but I like my steak.
I know, but yeah, when I'm dieting, it's very little protein. It'll eventually dwindle down to like 3 ounces of protein, you know, and a lot more vegetable and, you know, moderation of fruits and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely.
Your mentality seems crisp and clear as always. You have your person of faith. During this time off, with, you know, the pause, what would you say? How'd you spend it? Congratulations on the new home, by the way. So was it spent, you know, in your home?
It was really, it was great for me. You know, I didn't contract the virus. Nobody in my family did. We all stayed safe. We moved into our home during the pandemic, you know, May 1st, we moved in. And we were able to, well, my husband worked, you know, but I was home and I was able to work on things in the house. I was able to be in my home, enjoy my home. I mean, I still am because we're still in this pandemic. We're not back at work yet. But it was really nice to take a rest because I live in Long Island. I actually commute 6 days a week to the city. So, you know, 4 hours or more a day I'm spending traveling, and then I'm training and I'm exhausted and I don't get to enjoy my home. I don't get to be in Long Island and do things or just sit and be peaceful in my house. So it was a really nice break.
Yeah, I think stories like that and experiences like that need to be shared more. I think some of us feel guilty. I don't, you know, and I hope you don't, but I don't. I don't think you do it, and you shouldn't. But I have a feeling because of the obvious nature of all this, right? With, you know, with the negative. But I think there's a lot of good that comes out of it with the proper mind state, right? We allowed ourselves to be overworked in different ways, be pulled into, you know, a kind of a capitalistic mentality where like, you got to work.
Yeah.
And we do have to work.
That's what we're driven by that.
Yo, we're like, yeah, we a lot of people succumb to that. And by the time you know it, you're old, gray, and frail. And you're like, damn, I didn't really live my life. So it's like, to get this opening, it's like, oh, this is some time for me. And if used properly, could be very powerful. Creatively, spiritually, recovery-wise. I just think there's a lot of benefit. I think we don't see it now because we're in the midst of it, and a lot of our common information that's shared is media, you know, influence. But I think there's a lot of good that inevitably comes out of all this. I think we're going to see a lot of good stories. I think we're going to experience a lot of good music and creative stuff, and I think people are going to come out happier. You know, enough with the articles of people talking about this is dead, New York City is dead. This shit is not dead. It's just certain people have left, but New York is always gonna have a pulse of culture, creativity, and beauty that no other city in the world can match. You know?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was necessary for everybody to be on pause and take a break and reboot. Because when you take that break, you reboot, you repair, you rebuild, and you come back stronger in anything you're doing. And you get to really like sit down and realize what's most important. It's your home. It's your family. You know, what is home? Home is the loved ones closest to you. It doesn't matter about chasing that capital or, you know, networking with those people and those groups and trying to get to the next level. Yeah, sure, that's great. But you can't forget what home is. I think a lot of New Yorkers forget what's important, forget what home is. And we were forced to remember, you know, where your heart needs to stay at.
Right.
And I was very grateful for the break because I'm always hustling. I'm always going. And I was starting to feel really fried and really burnt, you know, getting ready for that Showtime fight and then going back to work right after. And it was very mentally draining. And, you know, really right after that fight, I didn't work that much, and, you know, until we had to stop. Like, I fought in January, and I worked a month and a half, and then we had to call it quits and close the gym. Yeah. So, you know, I think that everything happens for a reason, for sure. God has his plan, and there, like you said, there was a lot of beauty in this break, and I'm grateful for it, and I'm grateful that I wasn't harmed, my family wasn't harmed, and we were able to reap the benefits in a really ugly time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm a big advocate of just doing what I feel is right. So I wear the mask all the time. Yeah, I gotta tell you, I didn't realize my breath smells like shit.
I think everybody.
Like, Jesus Christ, I'm like, how do people deal with me?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Like,
yeah, Jesus. I think I'm immune to it. It hasn't been bothering me lately. But in the beginning, I was like, oh my God, like, that's like ridiculous.
That is so funny. Yeah, I mean, the masks are definitely annoying, and this whole new way of life is really frustrating, but it's important to, you know, follow, you know, the rules and to be safe. But, you know, going into a store and not being able to try on clothes to see if it fits, you know, it's like, oh, it's just so annoying. I mean, I'm glad things are opening up again, or, you know, going to the restaurant, having to wear your mask and sit down. And
I mean, I don't know how it is. I don't know if it's a little more loose on Long Island, but out here in the city, I mean, people are hanging out on bus lanes, just in the middle of the street, to have their margaritas and fish tacos on a bus lane. They're eating fish with bus exhaust sit on their head. This
disgusting.
M22 is blowing on them. It's like, I've never been that desperate to eat outside.
Yeah, seriously. No, it's like, a lot better in Long Island than the city. We don't have that over here.
Yeah, like I see it. I'm like, these people are so silly. They're like, oh my God. It's like, and then a bus comes by. And you know, New York City garbage, like there's garbage all in this heat.
Oh, the city
smell, and they're like eating their food, and it's like this garbage all over the place, and not everywhere. But that's my overall sentiment when I think about eating on a sidewalk.
Yeah, and it's probably worse now than it used to be. But the city has some funky smells. Like out of nowhere, you just get this rancid woof of air, and it's like, oh, that's New York for you.
For real. Well, Alicia, I really do appreciate your time. I'm so happy we're finally able to do this. I definitely would love to have you on again. I think this really does capture the essence of who you are, and I want to share that with the people, you know? I appreciate your time. You're the bomb.
You're the bomb. Thank you. We'll definitely do it again.
All right. Love and positive energy to the rest of the family. Tell hubby I said what's up, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too, honey. See you soon,
baby. Peace, Alicia. Thank you.